Welcome back to Backyard Science. This week we're talking about entomology, the study of insects, and today we're going to talk about a branch of entomology, myrmecology, and that is the study of ants. Ants are something that you can probably find anywhere near your house, and I did find some right in my backyard. It did rain, so right now they are not out. But let's take a look in a few hours once it dries up and see what we find. At first glance, ants might seem like a pest, but actually they have a lot of important roles in our ecosystems. When ants form ant colonies, they're actually aerating the soil and creating a more fertile soil so more things can grow. Ants are also a vital food source for many animals, including birds, reptiles, and small mammals. Some ant species have symbiotic relationships with different plants and animals, and this means that both of the organisms are benefiting from the other. So what makes an ant an ant? Let's take a look at this diagram that I drew to see what different features an ant might have. So they're all going to have 6 segmented legs, no matter the species. They have a head, a thorax, and an abdomen, very similar to most insects. On their head, you're going to find their antennae. They have 2 of them, and these are used to smell, touch, feel, and communicate with other ants. In the thorax is where you're going to find their legs. And in the abdomen is the end of their body. This is where they will secrete pheromones, and they do sometimes have stingers there, depending on the species. And in terms of size, they can vary quite greatly. The smallest being about 1 millimeter long, and this is about the size of 3 grains of salt. On the larger end, they can end up being 50 millimeters, and that's about 2 inches. Ants are considered social insects, so this would be in the same category as wasps and bees, and what makes them different from other insects is that they form communities. And we call these communities colonies, and these are complex, very highly organized societies that can include 100 ants, and they can also include 1,000,000 ants. So these societies do change based on the type of ant that you're looking at. Just like in human societies, ants in a colony all have different roles. Most importantly, there are the queens. A colony can have 1 queen, or they could have multiple queens. They start out with wings, and once they find a place that they want to start a colony, they do lose their wings. The queen is in charge of laying eggs for the entire colony. Then there are the male ants. These ants also do have wings, and their only job is to make sure that the queen's eggs are fertilized. They don't live very long after fertilizing eggs. And then there are the sterile females. They make up most of the colony, and they don't have wings. They're a lot smaller than the queen and the males, and they do most of the jobs. So they function as the worker ants. They are ones that take care of the eggs and the larvae in the nursery area. They also are responsible for foraging for food and constructing colonies. Ant life cycles are actually very interesting. The queens are the only ones who are laying eggs in the colony, and so they have a very big job to do to create an entire city just on their own. They do have a lot of help from everybody else, but they are the ones who are laying the eggs. And ants go through many stages in their life cycles. So after mating, the queen lays both fertilized and unfertilized eggs. The fertilized eggs will eventually turn into female ants. The unfertilized eggs will become male ants. So these eggs are small, oval-shaped, usually transparent or white, and they take about 7 to 14 days before they hatch. And then they move on to the larva stage, and that is where they don't have eyes or legs, but they go through a series of molting. They still need to be completely taken care of. They need to be fed by all of the worker ants. After several molts, the larva will turn into the pupa, and at this stage is when they start to develop physical characteristics like eyes, their legs, their antennae, and wings. After between 6 to 8 weeks, the adult ant is able to hatch out of the pupa stage. They are fully grown, they are completely developed at this point. Okay, so checking back, it looks like our first few ants are starting to emerge from their ant hill. And it looks like we have some female worker ants rebuilding the damage that was done by the rain. Before they had multiple holes that you could see that they were coming in and out of, and after it rained, those holes were covered. So now they're trying to rebuild, make it so their tunnels are sturdy again. Hopefully you can see. And all of this dirt you see is actually dirt that was underground, and they have pulled out grain by grain to make their tunnels. And these guys are most likely pavement ants. The way we know that is because they formed their colony in cracks in the pavement. As you can see, there are multiple hills, evidence of these colonies. This could just be one big colony, or it could be multiple. And so the best place to start looking for ants would be on sidewalk cracks. You'll be surprised how many you'll find once you start looking. The longer you sit and watch, the more you'll notice. Something that I noticed that you probably can't see on camera is the tunnels have a lot of ants in them right at the opening. Not all of them are coming out to the surface, but they are handing off granules of dirt and rock to the ones on the outside, and then those ants will take them out. And then if you look around, you can start to see different ants straying farther away from their colony, looking for probably food. So these are different ants doing different jobs. And how do they know which job to do? Well, they use something called pheromones to communicate. And the queen sends out her pheromones so everybody can know what their job is. So I drew a quick picture of what an anthill might look like underground. Here you can see I have some worker ants outside, and they are heading towards the tunnel. And I just have some different pockets with ants in them. Here I drew a larger ant, which would be the queen, and right next to the queen are her eggs. I did put in a different pocket the larvae, so the second stage of their development, and then pupas over here. And farther down my colony, I do have some food down here. There's some more worker ants throughout, and it could look very different than this, but I do have all of the major parts of what their society would have.